got to the exam, it's like nothing about the hierarchy of roads. And I was like, I wasted all that time like on remembering the hierarchy of roads and doing that. And then I was just like, no, I need this. And apparently it wasn't on the exam. It was like very basic, like they still talking about programming things, like bubbling program diagrams and all that stuff. And I'm like, I haven't really figured that part out just yet.
You mean a hierarchy of roads? You're talking about like arterial roads, collector roads, things like that?
Exactly. That's what I thought, that there was going to be like questions on the exam pertaining to that. And I got nothing on the
Well,
exam with that.
I did see an exam that had had those questions in it. So I think
Oh,
the
I
challenge,
probably didn't get that one.
yeah, right, exactly. The problem is that nobody knows what's on the exam.
uh,
So
that's
what Black
such a
Spectacles is
bummer.
faced with is Ballast and Kaplan and all these other Chang. We don't know what's on the exam, so we kind of have to scattershoot. It's kind of okay. Well, we're going to throw this out there, and hopefully, you're going to get at least 80% of that's going to be on the test, or 60% of it's going to be on the test, which is enough to pass. That's my only explanation for why you're getting some things which aren't on the test. Is because we don't know what's on the test.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
in fairness to Mike, he's probably just trying to do that shotgun approach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's going to kind of up to you to, as a candidate, to kind of dive deeper beyond the syllabus and to do the reading as needed. Anyway, there's nothing that you can duplicate other than actually working in an office either. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's some of what I've noticed with a lot of my candidates who pass is they have been and continue to be working in the firm. So they're getting a lot of real-time experience. You know, like Devin in particular, she said, I know all this stuff because I do it every day, but some of the stuff I don't know. So she was kind of filling in the blanks. And Sean, I think, was in the same scenario.
Yeah, especially I'm noticing that with PPD and PDD, right? I felt like I knew and did better on the other tests because, I worked at an architecture firm for 3 years, but it was right out of school. And then I've been at an OPM firm for 5 years. So not having that everyday drawing and creating a set. And right, I definitely noticed that if I were to be working in a firm, maybe it would help me. I always thought, okay, I'm going to pass these tests and I'm going to go back to architecture, but maybe, I don't know, we'll see how it goes, but maybe I need to just go to the architecture firm and get some experience.
Well, I mean, that's like, students who are just graduating and then they get the AXP, but then they go take the test and they still fail. Yeah. So there's still something in it on basically the experience of being in an office.
Definitely.
That just kind of comes across. You don't recognize it necessarily because you're not taking notes, but it just is there. And a question will come up. You say, "Oh yeah, we just were." I noticed one of my candidates was saying that, "Yeah, we just actually were working on that kind of a project last week." So she said, "I knew the answers to the questions."
Danny, what is an OPM firm? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so it's owner's representative. So it's Massachusetts and other states. It's called owner's project manager. Right, it's this whole thing. It came out probably about like 25 years ago from the private world. The public entities and governments and whatnot have adopted it. Like there's a law in Massachusetts that the construction law that any public project over $1.5 million requires an OPM. So your owner's rep, we get hired at all different phases. It's easier when we get hired in the beginning, and then we'll help the owner procure their whole, their architect. The whole project. We can do all sorts of things with the development and the financial part to help them up with any tax credits that they need and get that all together, and then hire their team and then get them through construction.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, I liked it. I like going there. I learned a lot about project management, but I do miss the architecture side. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see.
I think that's why practice management and CE, both of them I passed on the first time because it was like what I do on a daily basis. That whole bidding process, we do that for the owner. So
I see.
Lots of things.
So you then probably ran across a lot of the contracts too then, right? Contract type or not? The AIA contracts?
Well, so it's interesting.
But they don't use them.
Yeah, a lot of entities don't use them. Cities will have their own that they work with lawyers, and maybe they originally took ideas from AIA documents, but I mean, the essence of it is still there, and I read contracts and help to develop contracts, but not AIA. It's so specific.
Yeah, so in that regard, it really can screw you up. Right?
Exactly, and it did in some ways. I think it did, definitely, when I was taking some of the practice tests.
Well, I know Devin would always make comments like, how much is real experience in conflict with the exam?
Yeah.
Right?
It's always there.
We just don't do those things in the real world, but the exam makes you to know that you're supposed to do the opposite.
Well, like some of the ones where it was, the always ones that would trip me up is, who owns an issue, who pays for the issue. Like if an architect makes a mistake, like we don't do that. We have contingencies for a reason until the contingencies run out, and then it would be the architect's fault, presume, if like this issue. So it was stuff like that. That would trip me up.
Yeah, I guess you always have to remember that they're trying to train you to become a licensed architect. So forget about everything else. What is it protecting the architect, you as an individual?
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I do. Yeah. I do have a lot of experience where there's our friends, architects, who got into a lot of trouble with projects because they didn't cross their T's and dot their I's, and they didn't follow AIA contracts. They created their own. Some were just a little bit above a handshake type agreements, right?
Yeah, not good.
They get into trouble.
Yeah.
Oh man. I did want to share with the group. Jay, which is now working, replaced Megan. If you failed an exam, Black Spectacles will give you 1 month off for free. And he just gave me the code to do that. So I don't know if any of you have taken advantage of that. So like maybe you have to cancel your Black Spectacles, sign up for the free code, and you'll get 1 month free. And then you can go back to paying again.
Is that for every exam, or is that like if you've taken all 6 of them?
I think it's just once. You get to do it once, redeem it once for the session that we're in for this class. Maybe twice, but I think it's just once.
Okay.
That's
I haven't passed any of them right now, so that's why
they want to guarantee you, like, hey, if this material wasn't good enough, well, 1 month will be on us for you to study again for the exam you failed. But I think it's
so you could get 6 months then, is what you're saying.
I think it's just one. It's a one-time offer.
Okay, so like out of the 6 exams, you only get 1 free pass.
Right.
Okay.
I want to read back through the original email from Meg, and I think there's a point when she said that you could.
No, I remember that
twice.
I remember that announcement about that. I have to go back and look at it. It was in Slack.
Yeah, it says to qualify, you must have reviewed a minimum of 80% of all video lectures, taken 1 full practice exam, and score a minimum of 60%, and review and master all flashcards for each division. Offer only applies.
I don't really review flashcards.
Offer only
I don't really review all the flashcards. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, they might be lenient a little bit, but offer only applies to 1 month free of Black Spectacles Pro subscription for $179 value.
Okay, so it's only one.
Yeah, offer only applies to candidates enrolled in a 24-week group coaching cohort.
Yeah, but still, doesn't that suggest that if you failed PJM and you did you met all those requirements, they would give you 1 free month on PJM?
It seems that way, yeah.
Because you haven't taken any other exams yet.
It says to redeem you must have completed the group coaching program without missing any meetings and reported pass-fail information for each division by submitting your NCARB score report. Offer can only be redeemed up to 2 times per cohort. So I guess you could do it 2 times. So 2 months off.
Okay.
Offer offer must be redeemed within 6 months of cohort's final exam date per the program syllabus.
You have to pick which one, PPD or PCM or CE, or you pick one of those. But you have to do it. Is there a time limit of when you have to?
You have 6 months to do it.
6 months
after
to
the final
submit.
exam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So like after like March, so back in like September, you have until September of this year, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, from your final exam to do it. But I don't
Right.
think they care like what test you failed. I think because it's just like a 1 month subscription, so you could probably get up to 2 months free study on them based on you know you not passing.
I just want to say like one thing for Black Spectacles to maybe make them a little bit more like the real exam, because when I took CE, I got exhausted just after the case studies, because I think I'm just so like I try to switch it up and I do different case studies for CE, but most of the questions for CE practice exam wise, it's always like the questions are like simple that like you don't need to look at any of the resources that like, if you can answer it as a given, or B, like it would only be asking for one resource, like the one answer is in the one resource. And on the actual exam itself, the question was that like it was asking for the answer, but I had to look through 2 to 3 different resources to find that answer. So that's why it like I just feel like if I felt
That's
exhausted because
interesting.
like I've never come across that.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure
like,
out I'm trying to figure out where that would happen, because either the question relates to, like, say, IBC code or something regarding a
it
plumbing
was about
fixture. So
it was
why would you have
about
to switch resources?
So one had to do, I had a couple like that, and it would be asking, say they present a construction schedule as well as a rate sheet for the architect.
Oh, okay.
Like
and
you
it
had
talks
to look at the
about
floor
like
plan,
services.
the schedule. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to talk about. You had to look at the floor plan to look at which part of the building is going to get constructed first, to look at the construction schedule. But then you also had to look at, I don't know, remember the other source, but the other resource was telling like the other, like if you didn't know what the schedule was, then like you couldn't figure out what that schedule was talking about for that one resource. Yeah, and that's why I was just like, what?
Right.
It's very much like the real world, though. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
it is, but that's why I just got exhausted doing like 3 questions from the case study. I'm like, how many more case questions I have? It's like 3 out of 10, and I'm like, oh my god! And it was just like I already spent 20 minutes through it, and I was like, oh my god, this is like I just had to go back and forth, and it was really just mind-boggling. After I finished both case studies, because I do the thing I do case studies first, mark down where the resources are or what the resources are, and then like hopefully like understand like how much that would be for the other questions. But it's just too much things. Like, ugh. Like I wanted to take a break, but I was like, no, keep going because I'm running out of time.
Okay,
so I stopped, and I'm like,
that's a good point. I'll present that to them.
Yeah.
So that you're talking
like
that's in reference to case studies in particular, right?
Case studies, because like I want them to get. I think it's not that I get coddled, but I feel like I'm in that like little lull, that kind of like happy place where it feels that like, oh, okay, so the questions are either going to be about one reference or something that you know off the top of your head. It's like, no, be prepared that it's going to be layered, that you're going to look at multiple references to find the answer. So that way it trains my brain to like be more thorough a little bit faster, so that I'm not getting exhausted after 3 questions in to do it.
Well,
I like doing the case studies for Black Spectacles.
Yeah, maybe they're not using my case studies because I write a lot for them, and I usually have you got to go to 3 or 4 references in my case study questions.
Right.
So they're obviously it could be it's a technology issue with Black Spectacles. They need to get somebody in there that knows how to program all of that. Are you finding drag and place questions that Black Spectacles have are working, or hotspots? Do they have enough of those?
I don't think they have enough, because I definitely
not enough. But like on the exams itself, I've seen some sprinkled.
I feel like I got probably 10 questions total on the test that were both hotspot and drag and place. So there were a decent amount. There was,
Right.
there was a lot of construction detail ones.
Black speckles need to add a little bit more of those in there, right, to get practice.
Yeah, I think a little more.
So
yeah.
you're saying 10 questions total for both, or together?
Yeah,
20 questions
together.
10
probably.
questions, like 10 questions that are like non-multiple choice related. Could Black Spectacles like do like a session, or not even a session, just like maybe a little segment about the hotspot questions, how to answer them properly? Because when I've been doing the NCARB handbook about like just their hotspot questions, I get a little bit confused of what they want for me to like click on, and then I would click on the right thing, but it wasn't like the answer for them to be acceptable. Like if they're saying component, I don't know if they mean component and that includes the words, or is it the actual thing itself?
Mm-hmm.
Or they will not say what it is. They just say click on the area. And I'm like, what do you mean by area? Does that include the words as well? Or do you want me to do it like here? Like I need more of those types of understanding.
Did they provide you a example of how to use HP and drag and place? I had one that they gave me when I first started Black Spectacles. It's kind of a little tutorial on how to use the hotspot.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
I mean, they did. What was it? I think it was like one of those videos that like you could sign up for, like their little what's it called?
Erie Live.
Yes, that. It was one of those Erie Live sessions.
Right, exactly, and it just shows you this is how these are the kinds of questions you'll get on NCARB ARE5 CAP. This is what it means. You're looking for 4. There'll be 6 answers, and they'll choose between 3 or 4. They won't choose between 2 and 5. It'll always be either 3 or 4 that are correct. Yep. And on the multiple choice, it'll only be 1 that's correct. And then they'll do a hotspot example where they say, so here's how you want to do a hotspot. You drag it over to the image on the graphic. Is usually how it's usually a hotspot's usually related to a graphic illustration. So it's usually not dragging over to a word. Where it's dragging.
What about a question about the change order sheet? So like there would be a change order sheet, and the question would be like, I guess trying to figure out the date of substantial completion, if the contractor is still at responsibility to do their work at this stage or not. And then on the question they'll ask like point on the form where you would find that information to find out if they are correct that they shouldn't be doing work anymore. Like I don't know if it's like, do I have to click on the date, or do I have to click?
That's a strange hotspot question.
Like this is from the actual exam, and that's why I was just like, do I actually click on the date, or do I click on like another line in the actual form? And that's why I need to understand is just like when they ask these things, it's like, am I supposed to click on like that area or this area? And I know like every hotspot question is different. That like the range of acceptable areas is like, it could be like a big bubble compared to like maybe like a small square. And that's where I just feel like that like I'm probably right outside where the hotspot acceptable area is.
Again, you don't know if you got it right or wrong though.
I have no idea. And for all I know, I probably got everything wrong. That's the thing. Like, I don't even know at this point because I have yet to pass any of them. And for CE, I failed sections 2 and 4, my first round. And then last Saturday when I went, I had the opposite. I passed those areas. Like I failed, what was it? Yeah, I failed 2 and 4 last time, but this time around I passed 2 and 4, but I failed 1 and 3. And I was like, oh come on. So I was like, this is not fair. So.
You probably failed with like one or 2 questions. Probably it's probably
because yeah, both the sections that I failed in, they were 3s, and I'm like, how close was I to a 2?
Yeah.
And I was like, but it was just so annoying that every time I study and I retake the exam, the parts that I failed in before, I do better in the first time or the second time around. But then the ones that I've done good that other time, like it's like my brain saturates it. It's like, take that information out. And then I forget, and then I go back to being 1 away, and I'm like, So I have to regroup myself and figure out like what I need to tackling my strategies again.
Do you think you need more time just to get through the material because the schedule has been too quick?
I think my thing is that when I went into the exam and I got exhausted from like the first 3 questions of the case study for CE, my mind, I think, subconsciously treated like the times I was doing a practice exam where like you're being timed, but like this is a learning process. And then the other half of me was like, no, it's not a learning process. This is the actual exam. So like I think it's just I need to like readjust my subconscious level of thinking of like, okay, when I'm taking the exam, it's like this is now or never. Like that, there's no do-overs type thing.
Right.
Whereas when I'm taking practice exams, I'm like, I'm still learning the content, and I'm like, okay, it's okay. So like this summer, I'm like, how much should I get? Okay, what did I do wrong? And this time, I have to stop thinking like that.
How did you do with? Yeah. How did both of you do with time left over? Did you get the test done before the exam was done?
I did.
I did not have it. I mean, yeah, but it's not like a lot like Devin. I didn't have an hour and a half.
No,
I had 20 minutes left over.
Yeah, I had something like that. I had like,
so good.
Yeah,
that's still really good.
It is because I was able to go back. There was some that I had skipped, and some just double check math and stuff like that, and double check references. And
so, which topics you felt were challenging, Danny, that you thought you struggled with? Topics, not particular questions.
Right. I mean, it really did have to do with
the
contracts. There was, I did study a little bit other contract numbers. You don't need that really. Because if they are referencing, like there's questions that seem like it was referencing a certain contract, other, not the main contracts between the architect and the owner and the architect and the contractor. I feel like 75% of the questions had to do with those 2 contracts and knowing them inside and out. I felt like that.
That's interesting because that really should have been in PJM.
Exactly. I mean, because it would be questions about submittals or questions about, the different types of ways you can bid out unknowns, right? But that those definitions, they are in the contracts. So I don't know. I just really felt.
Yeah, A201 is a beast.
It is such a beast.
That's a contract. That's huge.
It's huge, and I really did only read it once, and then I had highlighted it and circled like dates, days.
I just went through it again myself, and on a real project, and started circling all the things which had to do with dates, like 14 days, 7 days for this. And I found there's a lot of correlation between. They're exactly the same dates and times as they are for the contracts with contractors. So there is a lot of similarity. Once you know the basics, and I think I can't remember how many I wrote down, but maybe 10 or 15 dates that are in the contracts.
Yeah,
you just kind of need to know. Then once I wrote them down, I said, "Oh, okay, that's pretty simple." Because they're either 7 days, they're 14, or they're 60. And there's one that's 1 year, right? Which is you got to go back. Which I don't know many architects that ever do this. I don't do it. Is you go back after 1 year and walk through the project with your client.
Yeah, you're stuck. Yeah,
I've never done that.
Really?
Never done that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either with our projects as well. That's another thing. It's like, learn it, even though we don't do it.
It's probably
either you don't want to go back because you don't like the client, or they don't like you, so that never comes up. Or secondly, it's all been resolved, and you're still good friends, and they're actually become repeat clients. But that's something that I just found. Wow, I wonder how many architects actually really do that.
It seems like something the owner would require. If the owner requires it, then
sure. You're supposed to do it. It's a code of ethics. You should.
So that's like something I would monitor, like making sure. So that's a thing that OPMs do, that you keep track for the owner and make sure everyone gets out to the site. But other than that, exactly. It's some of that. It's the whole thing between the real world and what exactly is in those contracts. And they want to know what's in the contracts. They don't care that in the real world, the 1 year site visit doesn't happen.
Well, actually, now I'm beginning to realize why I probably don't do it, because most of my projects are overseas. So
there you go.
Right.
Oh, okay.
that's a big cost. That's a big cost to me, and a big coordination issue to get the client to meet me at a certain time in Costa Rica or in Middle East or someplace.
Right.
Yep. That'll do it.
Yeah, I hardly ever have any projects which are literally within driving distance of me.
Yeah.
Everything's in a different state or different country.
Mm-hmm.
But so that has to be written into the contract, is that we'll make that 1 year visit, but there'll be reimbursable expenses for that trip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Well, let's see what else. Well, overall, what do you think about the experience?
I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed actually getting together as like the group, and when we discussed like taking questions and picking it apart and hearing everyone else's reasoning behind why this answer is correct, because it helps me think that like when I am not thinking in the correct trajectory, then when someone says the correct answer and they explain it's supposed to be this because this was mentioned here, it reaffirms that like, oh, okay, I have to go back, look at this source or read that material again, or go back to that Black Spectacles videos because Mark said it actually, or Mark, yeah.
Mike.
But I really enjoyed everybody, I really enjoyed everybody, chiming in with the questions when we're trying to figure out like how many questions are correct, and then figuring out the answers for that. That's really helpful for me.
So you find in terms of coaching, it's a good idea just to really do have a lot of questions, go through them as a group.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would help a lot because like on the times that we don't do a group get together, like we're all trying to either read the materials or watch the videos or take the practice exams or study from the flashcards. So it's just like at that point, it's like get all that information together. And I know Devin has been like using Slack to like ask questions about saying like this part about construction management is like completely different than what I've done in the past, or we need more details on that. And I take that as like saying like, okay, another material to read in the meanwhile before we meet up again.
Right.
So,
Did you use Slack pretty frequently? Did you go to it?
I looked at it from time to time. Like I would look at it, see if there's any updates, and then anytime there was like a new link, I would click on the link to read it. So it's a good resource. I just don't really respond to it that much. But yeah, I use it.
Yeah, well, I thought the experience was really good. It demystified a lot of the process of taking this exams for me, because for like 4.0, I started taking some exams under 4.0, and you constantly are going to forums and trying to work through forums. It's a very difficult process, at least it was for me, to try to just throw something out into the ether hoping someone's going to respond. And when someone responded, you weren't really sure if they were an expert on it or not. And it was very hard to get study material, and it was just very fractured, the whole process. So it just, for me, helped organize my thinking, understand the process, being able to ask the coach, you, Paul, direct questions, and you could respond. And I learned a lot from all the other people in the cohort. Like their study strategy was very helpful to me, to see how people are writing things down or ignoring some things and focusing on others. Like I remember when Sean, he said, yeah, I just started skipping videos because I already knew that information. Like, honestly, I'd never thought of even doing that. I was like, I would go through each thing. I mean, I probably need to go through each thing, but seeing the freedom that he just gave himself, he's like, I skipped it. I just went to these things, like how people are using the resources was very insightful. and so it was, I love the multi-platform process too, the Slack, the email, and the video, and of course the textbooks. It just was really good. And I've been telling everybody I work with who's studying like to do the Black Spectacles. I've probably just from my sharing with other people, got 6 people to sign up already because it's so good.
Yeah, I got 2 people.
You should get some free. You should get some.
I was
free
just saying,
yeah,
we should get. There should be like the code, like with Lyft, if you referred someone. Like,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I just sat down and I said, "Hey, we're on lunch." I said, "Hey guys, you've got to look at this. You got to try it." And I just opened my Black Spectacles, website and said, "Look, this is how it works." And I said, "You can take exams." It was like a 5 or 10 minute like lunch and learn. I said, "You guys got to sign up for this. It's amazing." And people started to look into it, But it's been really helpful for me. And now I have the confidence to now go through and start studying at the pace that works with my schedule. And I feel very confident that I'll be able to do it now. So it's been good.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I agree with everybody's, I think, the group mentality. And I find maybe with a lot of us, right? All of us, we went through architecture school. We're good at school and like school. And this is the closest thing to what school was, where there's knowledge available and discussion and the process of learning about this material. It is the most helpful structure for me that I needed. So yeah, it definitely worked. Not as I wanted it to work 100% and already be licensed, but that is on me. So
well, you're what, 2 exams away now?
I am.
Yeah, I think you're very close.
I am.
By summertime, you'll be done.
That is my goal. I'm so done.
Yeah, well, the ones that I tutor individuals, they're all doing PPD and PDD.
Yeah.
I have very few tutors that I just am working on any other exam other than those 2. So those are the killers.
They really are. They're just,
It's a lot of information. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so much information into one. Some of my friends, we've been talking about, we wish we just sucked it up and figured out 4.0. Because it's all like, it would have been more sectioned and seemingly easier to break down than the huge just conglomerate.
I noticed there's a podcast Black Spectacles has up. I don't know where I got it from. Maybe from the ARE5 community I found it. But I'm sure Black Spectacles has it online. It's a podcast with a gentleman out of Detroit. He's a student, AIAS chairman of for the national chairman. And he actually, when I met him in Detroit when I was working there, and he wanted me to become the committee chairman of sustainability for Detroit. So I did for a year. And anyway, so I looked at the podcast, and he was talking to Mark on the podcast, Mark Tier, the owner, right? And what Charlie did, his name's Charlie Klecka. He studied Black Spectacles for the time period, and then he took all 6 exams in 1 week, and he passed every one of them.
Oh, is he that kid? So this is the thing. NCARB always totes. You can pass them in 7 tests in 7 days,
I
find that. Yeah, I'm very proud of him. But that is
wow.
That's exactly like my coworker at work. Like, he is an anomaly because like he studied for practice management before. He doesn't take Black Spectacles. He just takes like designer hacks quizzes. That was the closest thing that he can get to quizzes. But literally, it was like the weekend before his exam was scheduled on a Monday. That whole weekend, he'd studied for 10 hours, like just cramming everything in, and then he passed. And I was like, I can't cram. I was like, what is with you? Yeah. And like, so far, every exam he's taken, it's been passed first time. And I was like, what is with you? Like, how do you do this? He's like part of our rendering portion of our firm. So like, he has to do rendering, plus he's kind of like a Revit consultant part also. So like, everybody always asks him a question about Revit issues, or like they're saying we need this rendering done thing. So he's constantly busy, but then he just has the time on the weekend before to just cram everything in. And I'm like, I don't get you.
Yeah, well,
Like,
Charlie took the Black Spectacles 7-week course, and then he crammed and did all 6 exams in 7 days and passed every one of them. So
that is
I guess you
crazy.
can think about it this way: is that you're in a zone, right? So you just
Yeah.
boom, 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 and just knock them off, because obviously there's a lot of material there which overlaps to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
And he just got it. Obviously, he got into a zone. But yeah, so they wanted to tout that example.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I got kind of
it can
frustrated
be
with that
done.
one. It can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm hearing that most students who are passing are studying a minimum of 2 hours a day, and some are up to 4 hours a day, is what they're
Mm-hmm.
averaging. Is 4 hours a
Right.
day to pass.
Yeah, I noticed tracking my time that if I study less than 40 hours for a test, I don't pass. And usually,
Mm-hmm.
like for the smaller ones, the shorter ones, like 50 to 60 is okay, but sometimes not. And then if I study 80 hours for a test, I will pass.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
80 hours a week, you're
No,
saying? Or?
no, total. I'm talking total, like the total amount of
okay.
hours per test.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over 4 weeks, that's 20 hours a week.
Yeah, which is like
Okay.
3-4 hour days, which
Which is what I've
which is
been
challenging.
doing.
So I usually take it twice.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, I
That's just in
think for
my
me.
seeing
Did
the
you
total.
Yeah.
Did you see something in the? I don't remember where I just saw it. Where if your firm is not paying for your tests, exams, and you pass, they pay for it. There's your
Right.
AIA chapters may have a program where they do that. So
Really?
they mentioned that
I
somebody
gotta look into that.
they said you should check your state's AIA chapter, because they may reimburse you
What?
for passing the test. I don't
If
know
your firm doesn't do it?
if your firm doesn't do it, right?
Oh, okay. My firm says that they do that. If you pass, if you take a day off of work because you're taking the exam, but then you pass, they will reimburse you. So, yeah.
Oh, that's
Okay.
good.
Yeah, I need to figure that one out.
Yeah, that would be good.
Well, you guys gave me some good feedback. Be free to share it. Unfortunately, Megan's not around. I just don't know what happened, but I thought she was great.
I did too.
And
Yeah.
I just had one question, Paul. You said that there's different tiers of studying. Like, does Black Spectacles offer different weeks of this course, like a shorter, more intense version, or a longer format version?
no,
Okay.
no, they only offer one syllabus for the whole 6 tests, right? Which is what
Okay.
you've been doing.
Yeah.
They have individual tutoring, which is what I do. So students will sign up. I'm tutoring 4 right now, and they're they're from all over the country, and so they sign up for 3 hours. Then some will sign up for 6 hours, some for 12 hours, and so we'll go through
12 hours a week?
no, 12 hours total.
Oh, total. Okay.
So most of them, I'd say the majority of them are 3-hour tutors.
Is that on the
So what they do is
website?
I'm actually not sure. I'm sure you'd find it on the website.
Yeah, you can. It's under like the different packages, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe, going back to your question, I believe that if they don't have it, because I believe Megan mentioned to me that they do sometimes will put a cohort together just on one class, like PPD.
Yeah.
If they have enough people sign up, maybe six people, I don't know what their minimum is, then they'll just go after PPD or PDD. Because they've asked me, she said, Paul, do you want to teach a cohort just on PDD or something? And I said, not for the pay. It's not worth it.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Do you guys think that I am an employee of Black Spectacles?
An employee? No, you're a consultant, right?
I'd say coaches are just like, they're not part of Black Spectacles. They're like volunteers, right? You guys kind of, not saying you don't get paid for it, but I'm just saying, like, you aren't specifically working at Black Spectacles.
Yeah, we don't work.
Consultant.
Yeah, we're independent consultants.
Yeah.
How many are there? How many coaches are there?
There's 10 right now.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, the classes range around 10 students per class.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh,
as this catches
okay.
on, you're going to need to, your coaching staff is going to need a double. I mean, this is the
Well, actually, that was one of the
first
questions.
year, right?
That's one of the questions we're supposed to ask you at this wrap up. Is if any of you want to be coaches, you should talk to Black Spectacles.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to focus on passing the tests, all of them first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe-
Devin would be a good coach.
Yeah,
I
I
was
feel
going
like
to say,
Devin would crush it.
especially with her techniques
Yeah.
about
She's like,
studying
all right,
for
everyone's studying 6 hours per day. That's it.
it. Yeah.
Right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share? Are you supposed to take a survey after this that says that you're going to, Black Spectacles will send a survey to you?
Is that when we log in?
They do every time.
Oh,
They do? Okay.
yeah, that
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
So what do you think coaches can do to improve? What do you think I need to do to help you out better, help other students out, other than know what's on the exam?
I mean, like what you've been doing with every time that we meet up and we always just ask questions with each other, or you have like all these practice questions that you have ready to just like shoot at us. Like I think that's very helpful already. I don't really have anything negative to say because it's just like that is actually what's been helping with the way I've been studying. So I think what you're doing is good.
Okay. Yeah, I know, but I appreciate that. You know, it's frustrating for me though to know that, gee, you know, I'm telling them that they need to study this and then it's not on the exams. Like, geez, you know,
Yeah.
I wish I knew what was on the exam so I could like zero in and say, you know, don't bother about reading that section or don't worry about calculating that formula. But so
Right.
yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's a shoot and miss. You just got to say, okay, well, this is the kind of feedback I'm getting from candidates, so I'm trying to zero in now on more of the study topics. But again, I could be way off because some students go in and say, "Oh my God, there wasn't everything was on the test was what I studied. It was unbelievably great." Then others will say, "Nothing was on the test that I studied that we covered." It's like, wow.
Yeah, no,
I don't know how to get more specific without without cheating and then never being able to be an architect and getting caught.
No, exactly. No, you gotta honor that code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
honestly, I think it is because like there's so many different versions of or different levels of the exams. Like there's a harder level,
Well,
easier passing thing.
That's a good question because if you failed it 3 or 4 times or 2 times, you say, okay,
Yeah.
well, I know it's on the exam now. So if I go back and study what I think I missed or weak topics, but then you fail again. So, okay, there must be
Right.
something missing then. It's a completely different test, different topic,
That's
right?
exactly. That's what I hate about that. It's like for project management, I already took that 3 times already. The first 2 times, I was like, okay, the format was the same. Like I remember this case study was the same case study. And then the 3rd time I took it, it's like that case study didn't pop up anymore, and I was like, what's going on? Like I don't know this topic. So yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just
well, they are supposed to switch them up. ARE is supposed to switch them up all the time.
right. I think that's the thing. It's like it's like a lottery thing of putting your hand in the bowl and picking out a number. It's like I picked the same number twice, and then the 3rd time I was like, I picked a different number. I'm like, okay, this type of exam I'm taking now. So it's just I understand that's how it is. It's just it's frustrating to like certain areas are not in there.
I think for really there's a big part. Like there's different types of people that handle tests differently or organize their thoughts differently, just like how you were saying, Kathleen, like you're in the test and then your mind is wandering and your brain is like shutting down different parts of your like of your thinking or something like that. And like for instance, I feel like I have some of those challenges where I see some of my other friends, they can concentrate better or just read faster. I mean, there's like all these little things that just add up, and sometimes it's not a knowledge gap. It's just like a processing gap, you know, like how we process information individually is just different. So, so for me, I feel like I have to break my normal mold and be a different person in the test so I can, number one, be more efficient. I find that I read the question 2 or 3 times sometimes, and that just slows me down, you know? and it might be a concentration thing. I'm not sure what it is. So it's just like all these little things that I'm losing time on that causes problems for me. So
I remember reading, I can't remember the resource. It may be the other guy, the one that passed.
Sean?
He has no, not in this group. There's like this is a third party thing I'm talking about. The guy who has like that black book and it's like passing the ARE exam. He has his own website.
Oh,
I forget his name.
Followed him. I was following him at one point.
Yeah, but
he
he has this one section, I guess, from like the little free segment of his book that tells you like what type of thinker you are. Like, are you a visual thinker? Are you a like technical thinker? Like, do you read better than others, or like can you process math faster? And like they tell you like the type of thinker you are, like then they say like you should study more like this, or like if you're a visual person, like you should probably sketch more of the concepts that you're coming across, and that would retain in your head better than just reading the words. So like that's that. I don't know where you can figure that out on your own, if there's an exam that you, or like a little quick online test that you can figure out what type of thinker you are.
Yeah, there was. The young architect.
There is a test.
Yeah, that guy.
I took it, and it only takes like 5 minutes to take the test. And I discovered I'm more perceptive type of an individual. I'm more visually inclined to understand things as opposed to somebody reading a text to me.
Right.
So you're right. I do, and that is true about myself. I like graphics. I like illustrations. I like that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I was online. I don't remember the source, but you probably could just Google it about.
Okay. Yeah. I guess
your test taking personality skills or something. I don't know what you'd Google for.
Yeah. But I don't think that's a thing that Black Spectacles can like put on their thing, because like I think that maybe I don't even know if that should be like a prerequisite for them to say like you should understand what you are before we get into details. But
I think that's I'm making notes to do all this, by the way, so I'll share with the next.
Yeah.
They hired somebody. I don't know when they're going to start. But the frustrating thing about it is nobody that works for Black Spectacles is an architect.
Wait, what?
Oh, that's right. You said that.
And that's like we had a coach session the other night this week with Jay, and he said, "Yeah, we're really happy to get this new recruit in to replace Megan." I said, "So what's her background?" And he told me, he said, "Well, she's not an architect." I mean, well, and they said, "Well, yeah, Black Spectacles considered we probably should have more architects on our team."
Yeah. Hello.
Wait.
They have psychometric people. They've got logistic type, test taking,
which is great. Yeah.
I mean, to an extent, but they can't all be that. It's like.
Well, I think Mark Tier, is an architect.
Right.
I think Mike is an architect because he teaches. Those guys are architects, but there's nobody quote on staff that's architect. And so I think they're changing that, because I was urging. I said, look, if you want me and some of the other coaches to go through the Black Spectacles syllabus and check and verify that your questions are right and that the resources are accurate, we'd be happy to do that. So, because I don't know if you remember. Oh, maybe you weren't there, because we had a session with Megan, and she said, yeah, I don't even know what Florida area ratio is. I'm not even sure I'm even pronouncing it right. We're saying what? Come on.
What?
It's not really, if you think about it, it's not really necessary for that kind of an organization to be in that practice per se if they've got consultants, because what their job is to manage the system, right?
I get it, but I think it's like the same thing as like an MCAT. Like, wouldn't you have doctors also be part of that testing thing so that you get the information is correct? Like,
I would like to have a doctor on that for sure.
Yeah. Make sure that what they're studying for is correct.
I think they're going to try and change that a little bit, but I think they've been leaning on their architect coaches for that kind of help. Anyway, I think I'm writing that down, is that maybe Black Spectacles could provide some kind of a preliminary as you first start, is to find out what kind of test taking personality do you have.
I think that would help.
And then they can zero in on how you approach the syllabus.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
I'm trying to find that now. I still can't find it. What you guys were talking about, It's not the
I mean,
not the Meyer-Briggs.
No,
right?
no,
No.
no.
no, 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 it's like a really simple, like it's not even Briggs Myers is way too long, and that's a thorough personality thing. I don't know.
Albert, go to the ARE5 community. I think that's where I found it.
Yeah.
I think it was just something that I was going down the thread of emails, and somebody said, "Oh, well, here's the thing where you can actually study your personality on." And there's a link right there. I clicked on it and took it.
In the in the
No, it's just called ARE5 community, I believe.
Not on the Black Spectacles.
No.
No, it's NCARB's ARE 5.0 community. Like when you log into your NCARB profile, then it should be like on the right hand side.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it right now and I can't.
ARE5 community. Okay.
Well, I'll go back and look. If I find it, I'll send you the link.
I think I don't even know if it was like the link was also within that book. I think the book of the Young Architects Guide, like he just talked about, like if you're a visual learner, you like to learn like this. If you do technical stuff, you're like this. And be like that was his thing.
Yeah. Like my sons are really good at math, and they really they can look at a question and they evaluate it almost like an attorney or an accountant, and boy, they can figure it out so fast. And I'm sitting there like a dummy. Yet they can't do visual stuff as well as I can. I think that's a good point. I think that's something that I mean, again, I'm not sure how Black Spectacles would then approach the teaching syllabus about how you figure out, well, how do I coach somebody that's more visual than technical? That's kind of up to you to figure out probably how to sort that out. I mean, I guess that's why I guess that's why you like the Buildings Illustrated book, right? It's because it's more graphic, it's more visual, as opposed to MEEB, which is very textual.
Yeah. Like even in the AHPP, like the only things that, like the words would like kind of like be daunting for me that I get tired from reading it. But like if I look at the graphic of like the project delivery methods, like that sticks in my brain better than reading like a whole block about it. It's like, okay, got it.
Yeah, Mike's lectures were mostly that visual, right? He'd always have that pen there and drawing circles and diagrams and things like that. So he was kind of making that jump. But the exam is not necessarily that way, right?
Not necessarily, no. But it's like if you remember that resource, then you can pick it apart in your brain and use that in the questions on the exam. If that makes sense.
So one of the questions I would have, is, again, I always keep saying there's two things. One of our coaches was asking the other night. He said, so what am I supposed to be doing? Am I supposed to be a professor, or am I like teaching a course, or am I just kind of coaching and I'm kind of responding to questions? And I pointed out, I said, well, I think that there's two things that a coach needs to do. One is there's two things that students need to know. They need to know the material that NCARB wants architects to know, and then secondly, you have to know how to take a test. So there's like two different skill sets.
Yep.
They can be completely different. As you said, Kathleen, some people just really know how to take tests. It doesn't, no matter what the material is, right? They just seem to go in there and just bam, 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 and get it. And other people, but who fail, know the material, but just can't actually get by that hump of actually how to take that test. So that's really the two skill levels. And the only way I know to practice how to take a test is going through different strategies that people have been doing, such as we've covered them, right? Is that what do you do when you look at a multiple choice question, or choose all to apply? You only look at 2 incorrect answers, not 6, that type of thing. Or look at questions and circle the key features in the question to find out what the intent is. And the other thing I've found that candidates are doing is that they're doing a lot of practice exams. The ones that are passing, they're doing lots and lots of practice exams just so they get used to it. And I'm saying, well, also monitor your time. So as you're doing a practice exam, write down on a sheet of paper right next to you, okay, I went through all the questions in 30 minutes. And I need to go back, and I checked off maybe 15 that I need to go back to. Then do your case study and then monitor that. Okay, one case study took me 30 minutes. Another one took me much longer. So that way, each time you do a practice exam, you're starting to zero in on your skill sets in terms of time management. So then when you hit a case study question like the one you said you hit, it just really threw you for a loop. That okay, I've faced that before. I know how to deal with it. That kind of thing. You know what I'm talking. You say, okay, I've done my time management. I've run into practice exams where the case studies have thrown me, and this is how I dealt with it. So if you keep practicing and practicing, it's another way I was thinking about looking at it was, well, what do you do when you're actually learning a musical instrument? You're not necessarily studying for a test. You're studying how to play the instrument, right? So in this case, learning architecture skills. But then you get thrown into an orchestra, and now you're given a piece of music and you have to learn how to play it. But you have all the skills behind it, and you know how to actually operate the violin or play the flute or whatever. So you actually know that. The same thing would be with sports, is that you don't necessarily know what the opposition is going to throw against you, but you've studied the sport itself and have practiced incessantly. You've practiced, right? In all cases, those two lessons tell you that everybody practices a hell of a lot before they get good at they get good at their instrument. And I hope that's true of doctors and attorneys, is that they practice a hell of a lot before they get licensed. Because you don't want to go in, for heart surgery and have somebody say, well, I've only done this 3 times. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of NCARB's trying to kind of push us up to that level of the profession, is that we are really considered experts in what we do.
Right.
So they're just not necessarily looking for somebody who just really can take a test well and come out of school and become a licensed architect. They're really looking for experience, right? Which is what doctors are expected to do, the internship program. So that's what we've got the AXP program in there for, right?
Right.
So people more experienced in what the actual practice is. So I think that's just another strategy to think about, is that it's not like college in that sense, is that you're not just taking a test to pass and get out of college. This is actually getting into a serious profession where you're liable for people's health and safety.
Right. Yeah. Serious.
And it's it's architects do have to cover a lot of material. I mean, again, we do study structures, we do study mechanicals, but we never actually practice it. We're not structural engineers, but we are expected, our clients expect us to know what kind of a beam to put up in the building, or what kind of structural system to start with. Because if you took a sketch and went to a structural engineer and said, well, what do you think? And he'd say, well, what do you think? What do you want it to look like inside? Well, so that's why it's hard for us as architects, is we got to know a lot of material.
Yeah.
I think this course actually helped me realize that certain areas where I thought that I actually knew a lot in, I actually only know a lot in one facet of it. Like for CE, I'm actually doing a lot of CE or CA stuff, like construction administrative stuff, in my office. But then when I took the exam, I realized I'm only pretty much doing the submittal part of the exam, like logging in when submittals come in from the consultants and contractors. Like I'm not actually as focused in the contract part of CA to say like whose responsibility is this. Like I'm actually more in charge of like making sure the paperwork is coming in properly, and that when you're in the submittal, what are you supposed to look at it as in a submittal. So that's when I realized after I took my exam, like I need to brush up on the contract portion of construction administration. So this actually helped me out a lot about figuring out what I am good at and what I'm not good at.
Yeah, that's true. I find myself in the same boat. I mean, I've been practicing for over 35 years, and I still, when I'm doing this, saying, oh my God, this stuff I really need to know more about, or I'm weak in. I'm sure, doctors are in the same place, and attorneys are all, I've got several relatives who are in both practices, and they're constantly studying, trying to keep up with the knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody, you're going to go back and see if you can get Black Spectacles to give you some 6 months of that, at least 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I should actually check that out.
Yeah. I will do that next month probably.
While they're still flexible right now before they start changing any rules.
Yeah. Well, when I read the email, it says that I was one of the first people to sign up for this cohort. So when I looked at who it was sent to, it wasn't anyone in our cohort. So I don't know if maybe it wasn't extended to everybody. I don't know, but hopefully you should at least ask Jay about it. Maybe he'll honor it.
Yeah, and I think maybe just throw this out while you're discussing with him is that, do we get any credit? Would we get it? Would you consider any credit if we bring in students to Black Spectacles?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to hurt, right?
Right. Yeah.
They say no, but they should consider it. So, yeah.
I mean, we are like the best advertisements for it because
Exactly.
we're in the field. Everyone we know is looking to take these exams if they haven't already, and it's a great process. So
now, would any of you be interested in sharing your experience with the new cohorts?
I honestly don't mind.
Okay.
I don't know
if you want, then I'll ask Devin if she's interested as well, and I'll just send you an email when our next cohort is. It's going to be PJM will be the first in-depth review. It's next Sunday. And it's 10 or maybe 10 students now. I think they may have added another one, but 10 students, and it starts at 10 o'clock, not 9 o'clock. It's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I need to pass a couple more before I be a spokesperson, I think.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. Like, I haven't passed anything, so I actually don't know if I'm probably going to be any of help because I don't even know, like, what parts I got right and what parts I got wrong in.
Well,
I'm interested, but I just don't know.
All I would do would be to basically say you're interested in sharing your experiences about, test-taking skills or personalities of how to, like you talked about, Kathleen.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. I mean, that's totally up to you because I know you've been through a lot already and maybe need a break.
Yeah, I probably do because I told myself immediately after I took CE and after I ranted on the NCARB messaging board saying like I just had like a cry for help. I was like, I already just failed 2 exams already. Like all the times I've taken exams, I failed twice already. Like I just don't know what I'm doing. And everyone's just telling me, it's like, sounds like you need a break. And I'm like, I probably do. So I need to readjust what I'm doing wrong in my studying habits and figure out to kind of like train like a marathon, I guess. I have to think about it. Like I have to commit to it. Otherwise, no.
Yeah, but don't beat yourself up too much because again, nationwide, it's still like 55% fail.
Yeah. I already beat myself up on Saturday, and I'm just like, okay, that's enough.
So. Yeah, I mean, you're not alone at all. I mean, this is a really hard exam, period.
Yeah.
And I say the advantages some people have over others is their experience. They just work it in a firm, and there's no way you can capture that unless you spend that time. But I think some of our early candidates like Christine and Christina. Yeah. They had not been working for a firm for years. I mean, they've been really out of the picture. So they were really a really, really big hurdle to climb.
Yeah.
Plus they had family commitments and they were trying to figure out, should I go back into architecture? So they were at a really huge hill to climb.
That's right.
Yeah, I commend them for that though. It's really good that they really wanted to get back into it.
Yeah,
it's always something that just is itching, right? An itch you can't scratch.
Yeah.
No scratch you can't itch.
I actually went into architecture not wanting to become licensed. I actually have a candidate right now in my cohort. She hates architects, but she practices, right? She's got her own firm. She's practicing architecture, but she just hates the whole idea of the bureaucracy of the ARE and NCARB and all that. So she just she's got this big chip on her shoulder. And I'm saying, you got to take that off right now or else you're not going to ever pass.
Nope, definitely not.
You're going to be fighting with every question. Well, why are you asking me this question? I don't need to know this question. That type thing.
And then you're not going to pass. Yeah, I definitely have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So I did that out of graduate school, and I started my own firm with partners. We had our own design build firm. So we didn't want to become licensed, and ultimately we started losing clients, or we couldn't capture clients because we weren't licensed.
Right.
They would say, "Oh, well, you got your master's degree, you've got all these buildings, you're published, etc. So why aren't you licensed?"
Yep.
Like, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
So then you got to just go do it.
Yep.
Now, if you remember Schiff Hardin's lecture, he said, what is it? He said 30, over 2/3, or it's a big number of people who do go into architecture never get licensed.
Yeah.
It's a small minority that
Mhm.
actually get licensed.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously you don't need to
Mhm.
be licensed if you're in a firm.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Yeah,
You,
because
you don't
your
want that
higher ups are going to be.
yeah, and you don't want that liability on your shoulders either.
Mhm.
Right.
Professional liability insurance, if you're a sole proprietor, it's expensive.
Yep.
You don't want to
That's
deal
true.
with lawsuits. So again, you're not alone there either. Is that there's a small group of people who actually do get licensed. But
Mhm.
as I say, all my clients, whether they're dentists or they're well, whatever they are, they all wanted to be architects. They always tell me, "Oh yeah, I always wanted to be an architect."
Like,
Yeah.
no, you don't.
Yeah. I get this all the time too. People say that all the time in different
Such
fields.
a great profession. Gee, it's such a great profession. I wish I
Oh
was an
God,
architect.
it's like
And they always say, "I'm not good at
freshman
math."
year of college.
And I say,
Everyone's like,
well,
I'm going to go to architecture school.
well, it's a blend between technology, math, science, art,
Design. Yeah.
culture. It's everything. It's sort of I like calling us like orchestra directors. We have direct a complete orchestra of lots of different trades,
Mm-hmm.
skills,
Yep.
and we have things to show for it. We got buildings. You can point at a
Yeah.
building. That was my building. Unless it falls down, then you don't want to point at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. I guess unless you have anything else to say, it's been great working with you.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah.
Keep me
Thanks,
posted.
Paul.
It's nice meeting both of you, Kathleen
Yeah.
and Danny. And
Likewise,
Nice
guys.
meeting you too.
keep in touch.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thanks.
I look forward to seeing you in the AIA Journal for Design Awards.
Oh yeah, that's gonna take a few years, but maybe.
Yeah.
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 All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.